Sion, the top lane tank, and Zoe, the long-range poke mage. Two completely opposite champions, but I have found a duo who hit master tier playing them together in the same lane. This is Smash 8-Head the Sion and Slaylef the Zoe, and they are twin brothers who hit master tier together in Season 13, playing this new off-meta combo in bot lane. While normal AD carries are stuck playing League of Legends, this duo are inventing new level 1 tricks to get advantages, and completely new CC combos to set up kills, including their patented Pain Train combo. The enemy bot lane won't know what hit them. This is a very surprising combo for enemy bot lanes to play against, but our duo believe it's honestly very easy to pull off, even on your first game, so I interviewed them to find out how it works. Now this is a duo strategy, and here's a shot of me with all of my friends. They're all off camera, I'm sure. But I have an idea. Today's sponsor, Porofessor. Not only is it a League companion app that helps you with runes, items, and off-meta builds, but it also has a Looking for Game tab, where you can post to find a duo to play these off-meta strategies with loads more features like builds being imported to your in-game shop. Sometimes Riot's item suggestions are a bit questionable, but instead get the best builds every time with Porofessor. Summoner spell timers on the UI so you can easily track enemy flashes and get extra kills, jungle camp timers and recommended routes to immediately level up your knowledge, and even live stats analysis so you can see which areas you need to improve. The app is completely safe to use, confirmed by Riot. Whether you're trying to climb in Season 13, or just want a more chill, fun experience, you should download Porofessor right now for free from the link in the description and start winning more games. Back to Sion and Zoe and our players. As I mentioned, they are twin brothers who started playing League together in Season 4, always loving playing duos that have synergy. The reason they started with SION Zoe is Riot's patches. Our players noticed that every patch that seemed to come out the past few years seemed to be anti-marksman, always buffing bruisers and assassins, never helping the marksman class become stronger. By Season 13, they were completely done with playing marksman at all, with Clark, the AD carry, picking up tanks and bruisers instead. And this is how he landed on playing Sion AD carry, a tanky champion who can absorb the poke from AP supports, and then after lane never be assassinated by the enemy mid or jungler. At the same time, Slaylef was looking for a champion to fit the high damage support meta that could work with a Sion. He landed on Zoe, a high poke AP support that balanced their team's damage and brought a bubble. The reason this duo works is their CC combos, and the unique kill setups they can get with them. Sion himself is a great AD carry anyway, able to make plays that no normal AD carry could make, engaging himself, not relying on teammates, and still being able to 1v1 AD carries, with the added bonus that enemy assassins no longer have a squishy AD carry to focus. Zoe also fits the support role well, having two targets to hit bubbles on, often able to hit it on someone, it doesn't really matter who. She punishes immobile champions very well, and many supports and AD carries are low mobility, and thanks to Riot's recent changes, Zoe now gets the summoner spell drop from every balloon, whether she kills it or not, so she can play in a duo lane and still use this very strong spell. Sion's relatively low damage and Zoe's lack of peel are completely made up for by the other champion, and as soon as the duo queued up together in ranked, even with no practice and just the simplest combos, they started to win. As they got closer and closer to master, they had to adapt and create some new tricks to let them get advantages over these better players. But in February 2023, they hit master together for the first time. Since you can't duo above master, as soon as they hit it they stop playing, letting their accounts decay so they could play together again, which I think is quite wholesome. The fun starts at level 1. Zoe takes her bubble, Sion takes his Q, and they look for an invade every game. On blue side, they walk through mid to the enemy blue buff, warding over the wall to try and spot an enemy, and if they find someone, Zoe can bubble through the wall to set up a pick, or at least force an enemy to flash away. On red side it's even better, invading Tribush, warding it to try and spot an enemy, again looking for a bubble and a pick. If a bubble lands, Sion has just enough time to land a fully charged Q on them, knocking them up and doing good damage for an easy first blood. In fact, they have a 10% higher win rate on this side as the level 1 works so well. Entering lane, again they're looking to cheese the enemy. There are two options. If they arrive early, they can stand in this bush and wait for the enemies to get there. When they face check, a bubble into a fully charged Sion Q again should be a free flash or even a kill. Sion can absorb all of the damage, being too tanky for the enemy AD carry to burst down early on. And if they do get a free summoner spell, ideally Zoe can grab it and use it for themselves. The other option is Zoe can look for a bubble through the Tribush wall onto the enemy AD carry as they arrive at the wave. They won't expect this as they can't see where Zoe is. Sion can use Ghost to get in range for another fully charged Q. In fact, Sion plays with Flash Ghost every game, as this instant movement speed to get in range is very good for setting up kills. Sion's early laning is quite weak. However, Zoe is one of the strongest in the whole game. For this reason, Zoe is playing as support, with Sion as the one farming. Zoe no longer has to worry about one of her biggest weaknesses, which is the wave, and can instead spend the whole time looking for poke and getting gold with the support item. With the new patch making the other support items better, it may even be good to use a melee support item on Sion and swap roles. Either way, early laning is all about landing these Zoe bubbles. The two best angles are this tri-bush wall on the side, and this bubble through the alcove wall. Enemies standing in this bush will always get hit, and they won't be able to see it coming due to the fog of war. Farming on this combo isn't essential. Sion is happy to give up CS early on to make sure he isn't taking a lot of damage. At level 2 he gets a shield, and that makes his farming safer. The duo know they can make up the gold later on by getting 2v2 kills. These always start with Zoe hiding in fog of war as she has nothing else to do. Zoe lands a bubble on a target, walking away to set up a long range Q. Sion also walks up to charge his Q. This specific timing where they're aiming to land their abilities at the last possible second of the sleep ensures that Sion can fully charge up his Q, and Zoe gets her long range Q, with both connecting at the exact same time for maximum damage. Both of their damage is already pretty high early on, so with Ignite on Zoe they can often get early kills. At level 3 they also have set up with Sion's E. Enemies know they can't stand inside their wave, as otherwise Sion can easily set up a slow on them, but they also can't stand outside the wave, as then Zoe can hit a bubble. This means there's literally no good place for the enemy AD carry to stand against this duo. Usually they try to funnel the kills to Zoe, as she snowballs the hardest, buying early damage to get more bubbles and Q hits long range to keep killing and snowballing more. It's harder for Sion to snowball a game as he's lower range, and he's fine just getting the farm and health from killing minions. Sion can also be a setup champion himself. If you get a good Sion Q placement on an AD carry and Zoe is fast enough to react to it, the knockup itself can give Zoe enough time to land a Q, so even when enemies have dodged the bubble, it doesn't mean they're actually safe. And even if enemies win a fight against this duo, the fight isn't actually over thanks to Sion's passive. In 2v2s this works quite well, especially against melee supports, as they have to be on top of you to get the kill. Minimum often Sion can trade the kill back, and our Zoe player says that sometimes you have to bait these plays to let your Sion die, and then trade the kill to fight afterwards. You don't have to peel to save him every time. You both need to be experts at using this death passive. One weakness of this laning is that they are vulnerable to ganks, as they are both quite immobile, but with the zombie passive, a gank doesn't mean they'll fall behind. Even if they can just trade a kill and then push the wave, they'll come out ahead. At level 6 they unlock their signature combo, the Pain Train. Zoe lands a bubble from far away, and as it hits, Sion starts charging his ultimate before the enemy is even asleep. This guarantees a full damage Sion ult into Q knockup, giving Zoe enough time to catch up. The goal of this duo in bot lane is a bit different to most meta lanes. Most bot laners aim to get kills and then kill the enemy tower as soon as possible. Sion and Zoe has much more kill setup than most bot lanes, with Zoe having the long range poke to hit people under their own tower. So although Sion can't really kill the enemy bot lane tower very early, it isn't all bad, as it just means more time in lane to get kill after kill, buying their first items. And here is where they should rotate mid to match the enemy bot lane. In any game, Zoe's best target is usually the enemy support, so instead of having to worry about wave management or farming, Zoe can just keep looking for them over and over again. And unlike a normal AD carry, Sion is now a frontliner. Instead of playing safe and waiting for his teammates to do stuff, he puts himself in danger, trying to create opportunities. These can be fights or even ults to engage, looking for picks to keep snowballing. But even in situations where Sion is 100% dead, the duo can find ways to get a good outcome. Like here, they use bubble on top of Sion. He stands on top of it and forces anyone who wants to kill him to get bubbled. That way, when Sion dies, the duo time their spells together to make sure they get a return kill in exchange for his death. This just makes Zoe even stronger, so it's not really a bad thing. Sion stacks full tank right away, acting as a bodyguard for Zoe. You are going to teamfight every game with this duo, as you don't have a ranged AD carry to just take towers. So in teamfights, Sion's job is to frontline and make space for Zoe to get kills. Zoe wants to play aggressive, using long range bubbles and Qs over walls to burst people. If enemies jump onto her, she tries to back off, and Sion runs over to support her, swapping their roles around. Using his AoE Q knockup to peel, it's very effective when you're communicating. Zoe keeps backing off and throwing damage as Sion tanks, with her returning to the fight to win it, ideally when it's safe. If this duo gets a big enough lead in lane, then Sion becomes too tanky for anyone to pass, acting as a wall for his teammates to stand behind. He keeps advancing forwards with his CC. Enemies can try to get past him or kill him, but neither of them work as their damage isn't high enough yet. With their AoE damage and long range CC, the duo are also really good at controlling objectives. Sure, they don't have high DPS to take it, but but they do have the damage to tank it and poke enemies off, or even engage on them if you need to. Zoe is always a pick champion, so vision control is vital for her to work, and luckily on support she can easily set up vision herself. Her ult gives vision over walls, letting her ward into deeper spots with quite low risk. As the game goes on, this duo is quite simple. Their CCs continue to work well together, and the champions make up for each other's weaknesses. So let's talk about the advantages and disadvantages of this pick. The best part of this duo is how it surprises enemies. When you pick these champions in Champ Select, no matter what happens, the enemy should pick bad matchups. For example, the enemy mid will probably take Cleanse to try and avoid Zoe's bubble, and top laners will always pick greedy matchups against Sion as they expect an easy lane. This means your mid and top can pick later to punish and counter pick, or even pick opposite damage to ruin the enemy's runes. It's very funny watching this duo play against normal bot lanes. They've practiced it for hundreds of games, compared to enemies who've never played this matchup a single time before. Even in high elo, the AD carries or supports often panic and misplay, as they don't know how to win this matchup. Overall, if you pick something strange like this, enemy skill is going to decrease, as their experience and knowledge of normal matchups no longer matters. And if you're sick of being dived on AD carry, Sion might be the pick for you. Even if Zoe leaves Sion alone to roam, Sion is not a champion you should risk diving. With his AoE knockup, a shield to bait you, and even passive if he needs it to trade kills, he's a great 1 vs 2 laner. The weaknesses of this duo are really the scaling, with AD carries able to outscale you in late game, so their goal is to try and win team fights and end before that happens. The 3 biggest counters are probably Cleanse, Mikhails, and Banshees, all things that stop you from making plays. The other issue this duo has is low DPS, meaning it's hard to take objectives, and this is why your team comp is so important. You always want a high damage mid and jungler, such as Tristana or Kindred, as they can provide the DPS and AD that you're missing. But really, this bot lane fits the meta well, as it's much more effective to have a strong 2v2 bot lane than it is to try and snowball through mid, as it's much harder to kill in mid lane than in bot lane, and that's why I think it deserves a high rating. Although late game can be hard, I think the strong laning and early game makes up for it. Winning games before these weaknesses matter. There is one bug or just bad interaction to watch out for if you're picking Zoe. You should never really buy Horizon's focus on this champion, as the damage of your spells isn't quite calculated properly. If you're standing close to an enemy and you ult away to get a longer range Q, the bonus damage on this item won't work. It only works if you're already far away and you ult towards someone. The actual spell distance doesn't matter. I think it should be calculated with how far the spell travels, but it currently isn't. And for this reason, here's the more consistent version of the build with Shadow Flame instead, and Rocket Belt for longer range playmaking and also easier escapes. Taking Dark Harvest is a must for Zoe supports to provide the missing damage you may have, since you have a lower income. Here's the Sion build, rushing Giant's Belt for easier farming, and Boots early to dodge more skill shots. He goes full tank early on to become a frontline, with the option to go Titanic if you need more damage, or keep going full tank if you just want to protect Zoe. They ban any champion who can survive the bubbles, for example Morgana who can shield it, or they also ban champions that outscale them, things like Vayne or Kassadin. Slayleaf and Clark have nothing to promote, they hope you enjoy this combo, and if you're looking for someone to play it with, why not make a post on Porofessor in the Looking for Game tab, so that other viewers of this video can find you and play it together. Link in the description. Thanks so much for watching.